Hi, this is just going to be a short video for part 3. The first thing that I want to show you guys is that you're going to need to go through chapter 2, including the PowerPoints, the videos. I also have example videos, as you can see here. And what these videos will do is sort of walk you through how to create the frequency distribution tables for quantitative variables in Excel and also for qualitative variables. And as you can see, there are several videos. I have the 2.2, and I think the 2.2 is just how to create the graphs, how to change the variable that you're looking at, or the values that you're looking at on the x axis. And so these are important because for part 3, you're going to have to do your tables and also your graphs. Now, in the instructions, let me see if I can find the correct ones. For part 3 is what they call EDA. And EDA is simply a way, it's simply the process of organizing your raw data into something that's meaningful. And just like anything else, when you complete this section, it should be under the heading Exploratory Data Analysis. Now, you have to include what each variable is. Is it qualitative or quantitative? If you have quantitative variables, which you guys do have, is it discrete or continuous? You also should include the frequency distribution for all the variables. Now, those tables, when you create them in Excel, are created slightly different. The quantitative ones are a little bit more involved. The qualitative ones are a lot easier. You also have to give me the relative frequency distribution for all of the variables, and an ogive for quantitative variables. Again, if you go through the videos for chapter 2, all of these things are explained, shown to you how to create these. And then you have to talk about the level of measurement for each of the variables. One of the things that you have to start getting accustomed to is when you look at your data, do you notice any patterns? Is there anything that sort of stands out to you? And this is important because when we get to the other sections, you sort of can go back and say, hey, wait a minute, I have this group of participants said yes to this particular question at a higher rate than the other ones. And that's something that should be interesting and you should include in your paper, obviously in your written analysis. The other thing is your sample paper. So of course, this is a sample paper, not your sample paper, this is a sample paper. What you have to have for part 2, obviously you have to have the cover page, you have to have your reference page, and then you begin the process of creating your paper. So part 2 was your data collection. How did you collect data? Do you think your sample is representative? You know, anything else that you think might be pertinent to include, and so your readers will be informed. So the next section will be the EDA. Now, this particular sample paper, she actually did quite a bit of writing in the EDA. What I suggest is that you sort of hold the writing for part 4 for your descriptive stats. This is where you sort of want to expand on it because you're not going to include any tables or graphs in that section. So for this section, what you're going to have then, of course, is either your histograms, your bar graphs, or your tables. Now, when you create your tables, you have to make sure that your tables are APA and also your graphs, right? So the captions go in a specific place for graphs. For APA, they go in a specific place for tables. And so your writing for part 3 should really be limited to something like table 1 displays this, figure 1 displays this. And so, again, because you have to write about it in part 4, it makes no sense to sort of expand your writing in part 3 and then sort of repeat it again in part 4. And as you can see, all of the variables have to be included. So the questions that you had to ask, they were mandatory, and then also the ones that you copied from your poll or the survey that you copied. And so this particular student broke it down by variable, which is a really good idea. And so the format that you have for this section should be the same format that you have for the descriptive stats, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Just sort of keep the same flow there. I've had students in the past actually do part 3 and part 4 together. And that's also a good idea. The only thing is that part 3 and part 4 are due at different times. So you might have to go back and sort of expand this section. Just make sure that the heading is appropriate, and the heading sort of shows that, hey, I have descriptive stats and EDA in here. And again, you can see that all of the tables here, all of the variables that she had to ask, and she sort of went through all this. So the only thing, but there is a mistake in this, is that the income should be a histogram, and obviously you can see that this is a bar graph. So she did get points deducted for this, but overall the paper was actually a pretty good paper. It was well written. And then you can see all the questions. Now, qualitative variables should have a bar graph, so actually this one's pretty good. And then of course, you get into part 4, which is descriptive stats, and I'll go ahead and post a video for that. So as always, if you have any questions, any concerns, just reach out. I know some of you guys are struggling to get to the magic number 30, but you know, the due dates, I can work with them a little bit, as long as we can get everything done before you have to do your final video presentation. So don't stress it, just reach out to me, you know, communicate with me, and I understand. So again, part 3 is EDA. You got to look at chapter 2. All of the videos will explain to you, walk you through the process of creating the graphs and the tables, make sure everything's APA, and make sure that your paper, you continue to build on your paper. Don't submit a separate paper for that. You're building into the paper that you submitted for part 2. Okay? And that's it. Thank you.